Okay, so this is the example for architecture design class where we're just going to use lines to illustrate our picture. And you were supposed to choose a picture of an architectural element. So it could be interior or exterior. I chose interior, but the same rules apply for exterior. The only difference really is on interior, I feel like you have a lot more curves than exterior. So remember, the basic principles of this are that anything that is perpendicular to the earth or up and down should have vertical lines. Anything that is parallel to the earth or side to side or laying flat should have horizontal lines. So I'm starting with this couch. And I am drawing curved lines because the couch is kind of fluffy and I want to depict that it isn't like a straight, rigid edge. But my curved lines are just subtly curved and still vertical. So I'm doing this front side of the couch with vertical, slightly curved lines. And I am increasing my lines for shadow. So you can see on the bottom right, some of the lines are spaced apart where there's highlight, and where there's not highlight, I increase the amount of lines or I put them closer together in order to make it appear like it is in shadow. As you go through this video, you can see that I kind of work lots of different things. Like, I don't finish the couch. I go over and I think I do the windows next and then the table or something like that. But my point is, you don't have to focus on one object. Move around the page. Just think about verticals and horizontals and lights and darks and depict that with line. And there really isn't a trick to drawing straight lines except practice, much like everything in art. So I start my horizontal lines here on the floor, and they're pretty straight, and I think that's just because I practice. I've been doing it a long time. I've been drawing a lot of straight lines. You could practice in your sketchbook, or you could be a little less concerned about it, as this activity is designed for practice. If you want to use your ruler, go ahead. It's there for you to use, especially in this class. By all means, it's just going to take you a little bit longer to move the ruler and kind of space it out. So I start with like a really even tone all over. I actually go right over this lamp. It's harder to see in real life than it is on this video. But then I realize it and I just get that little back bit. And then I move on to the wall. I'll come back to the floor later and do a little bit more shading, especially around that lamp area. But again, the wall is perpendicular to the earth, so it is getting vertical lines. And I'm doing really a light application, and then I'm going in and adding more lines where I feel like it needs to be dark. Even on this little line where I'm kind of tempted to do a horizontal line, I'm doing just small little vertical lines, almost like tick marks, all the way across. You really want to maintain and be consistent in your mark making. That's what will make it look neat and finished and completed. a good day. Okay, now I'm at home. I'm going to finish this up and talk a little bit about windows. I would suggest doing windows a little bit differently than the rule of verticals and horizontals, only because they're a different material than everything else, and you don't want them to blend into the horizontal or to the vertical lines of the wall necessarily. You want them to kind of stand out. So what I would do is I would just use some diagonal lines. Really light application. You know, windows are usually the brightest part of, anything. Actually, outdoor images, the windows might be a little bit darker than the building, depending on what the building is made of. But I still stick to my diagonal lines for the windows as a way to break up that space and, again, emphasize that this is a different material without really rendering the material. Right now, though, what I'm doing is the seat of the couch, and I'm doing kind of curved lines, but they're curved horizontally, and I'm trying not to go with the direction of the couch, more so the direction of like horizontal and vertical. And so as this couch kind of curves around, I keep my horizontal lines on the seat pretty consistent. I don't try to turn them with the form. Also, working on this couch, in real life, I really struggled to see the right side of the couch to see the values. Like, it was all black to me. In this video, I see them perfectly. I wish I could see it through the video as I was working on it, but I was really struggling here. If you're really struggling, we have light tables in the classroom. Feel free to use them, or do what I do and work on a different part of the drawing, because I got to a point with this couch where I just could not decipher lights and darks under my tracing paper. So I moved on. Another trick you can do, you can see me doing, if you're struggling to decipher the difference between some values with the tracing paper over your image, is hold your paper down with one hand and lift the corner or the side of it up with the other. You want to hold it with your drawing hand so that it doesn't move around and all of your lines kind of get misplaced. But if you lift it up and look at it, it's a little bit easier for your brain to process what's shadow and what's not shadow. Again, I'm not outlining anything. I'm just filling in vertical lines and horizontal lines. And I did put some vertical lines on top of this bottom book because there is like a small amount of it that you can see in the image. It looks like an outline, but I promise you it's not. They are vertical lines. Right now I'm working on the flowers, and I'm just doing kind of concentric circles. Circles are a line, and I know we talked about just doing vertical and horizontal lines, but when it comes to foliage, I think you need to think more about simple shapes, and I think circles or curved lines are the simplest way to depict that foliage. Um, you could do some zigzaggy lines too. Just remember that it's loose, it's you know unplanned, unorganized lines for foliage. Okay, so I know this doesn't look completed, but I'm feeling finished with it. And just a reminder, you don't have to do everything in your image. You just want to get the gist or the feel of the architectural elements that you chose. So here's mine, just vertical and horizontal lines for the most part. The only thing you can't see in this image really well are the diagonal lines for the windows. So I really urge you to look at this piece in real life in the classroom when you get a chance to. All right? And that is how you should be doing your sketchbook assignment for this week. Okay?